Welcome to Mack-n-Cheeze Music Podcast with your hosts, Brian DeHart.
Hey, this is Brian at Mack-n-Cheeze. We're going to finish up with part 2 of our Dave Tieman podcast. Stick around for it. I don't know about you, but sometimes I can be continually frustrated trying to get my mixes. Sometimes I just feel like crying.
There's no crying in the studio.
The fact of the matter is that I want to compete in this world with my limited resources.
The truth? The truth? You can't handle the truth.
Be that as it may, I'm going to share a little truth with you. Just so the audience can have an understanding of Dave Tieman's abilities, we're going to play a track that Dave cut at Mack-n-Cheeze Music years ago. Hold on to your hats. Sweet. Yeah, and of course, yours truly on drums. All right, well, that's enough of that. Anyway, let's get on with the podcast. Thanks for listening.
Magic happened.
Really?
Magic happened. It all of a sudden it
opened
just
up.
Filled the room.
Yeah.
It filled the room. I could stand behind it. It sounded like I was standing in front of it. And
right.
It was just, wow, did wonders
Celestians
for it.
in it, or what are they using?
I forget exactly what the speaker is.
Yeah. That Rivera downstairs has got the Celestian.
It's like a 70 or 75 watt speaker in there. Yeah, and I'm assuming it's sort of some sort of Celestian, because I think Marshall is known for that.
Right.
And but I can't recall off the top of my head. I had known at one point, but it's like, some series of numbers and letters.
Right. My friend Darnell, he is a dedicated, solid Fender guy all the way across the board, from his guitars to his amplifiers. And I get it. I totally understand it. What has been your evolutionary path? What guitar amp actually made you seek out the tone that you were looking for? I understand about Rivera. They're highly spoken of, and I'm sold. If I could only have one amplifier, because I'm tight on space, because everybody, it's tight in here, right? Yeah. I could only have one amplifier, and that was the choice.
If you want tone, period,
yeah,
that amplifier is it
crunches at 65 dB. 65 dB is what we're that's the level of volume that we're speaking right now. The amplifier crunches at 65.
But in and of itself, that at that decibel level sounds just
huge.
Incredible. It just really has it has a sonic quality to it that's uniquely that amplifier. And the thing is, I think when you record, that's kind of what you're going for. You're going for these like unique, something that when you fire up that guitar solo, or you're just doing the little jangly stuff in the background, it makes your ear go, and that amp does it. Tone-wise, that amp, for me anyway, it just has this sparkliness to it. I've played lots of amps in my day.
Were you a Mesa Boogie guy for a while, or was that part of your path towards Rivera?
I did have a Mesa Boogie for a while. It was interesting. I bought
just first met you when you had a Mesa Boogie. I think so.
When I first left Chicago, kind of right before I left, I bought it was a prototype of the Maverick. It was a Mesa Boogie model that they made. And I don't know. I got it on the cheap, and so I played through it kind of in early band days and that. But there was always something kind of missing from it that I would just couldn't quite get. And justifiably,
could I just interject? A lot of the Mesa Boogies that I have heard, and this is just from me, just have recorded all these years, some of them can be a little thin. They're just a little bit thin.
Yeah, this one didn't. It just, I don't know if it was the box of it, or because sometimes, like, if you just take that amplifier and you just put it in, like the Marshall, what I just was talking about, take the back off and you're like, that's a whole different amplifier.
Yeah.
You know? That's just a different ball game.
Not going back to Guitar Center now.
Right. Well, this Mesa Boogie that I had, it was a prototype of the Maverick, which incidentally didn't sound. It sounded similar to, but not like the Maverick does. If you go plug into a actual production model Maverick that they have now, and so like any good amp, after a while, I guess you're sort of thinking about something else, and you're maybe searching for a different tone or whatever. And, And I let it loose. Into the world. Yeah, there's another Mesa Boogie amplifier that I was looking at sort of side by side with this Marshall, but the Marshall is, a third the price, so that has something to do with it.
Right.
But the Boogie I was looking at was the Triple Crown, and that also has a MIDI jack in the
Interesting.
back, so you
I didn't even know
control
guitar
it.
amps are doing MIDI now. I guess I haven't
the
been at the guitar store lately.
The thing is, I don't think a lot of them do. I really had a hard time figuring out a few that do.
Right.
They have channel switching, and through the GT100 you could put you could just put a 1/4-inch cable in and switch the channels, but being able to switch all the different modes in it, that was kind of the big thing.
Right.
Big thing for me, and just being able to control it from one source without having the pedal board that I've got with my effects and different sounds, and then a separate channel switching amp. I want to hit one pedal, switch the channel, switch the effects, be able to be in, and then I'm in a mode where I've got my different effects lined up, and I can, if I want to take something on or off, delay on.
So it's a ton of programming that it allows you to do.
It's a bit of I will be completely honest. The GT100 it's a bit of a learning curve.
Right.
So something that you have to sort of dive into, or you'll just beat your head against the wall for a long time.
Yeah, kind of like everything else.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of recording through the years, man. So and we were just talking about Melodyne. I know my challenges with Melodyne. What have been some of your challenges with it?
Well, I haven't used it all too much, but from what I've seen, boy, it's like magic.
So a quick note on that. My challenge with Melodyne is that the learning curve on it is huge.
Yeah.
And I haven't spent enough time on it. But as a universal pitch correction, I've told you this story before. So on one of the songs that you actually did a recording on, had a Steinway piano that was slightly out of tune, right?
Oh yeah.
And ran it through Melodyne.
Yeah.
And it tuned the piano, and I was like going, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
What?
It's wild. It is wild.
What?
Like I said, it's magic.
Yeah.
But it's digital magic, and I guess it. I'd love to talk to, somebody in one of the top production studios,
Right.
if they see it as it still hold kind of digital to them, or does it, or is it close enough to, when you get into digital processing, it can sometimes weird things can
Right,
happen,
right,
and so that's a part of the whole juggling thing.
Well, you and I have discussed this before. It seemed like, especially when throwing Melodyne, and this is the old version of the Melodyne 4 that we're talking about, the Melodyne 4 version, it seemed like there was this tonality change in the vocal tracks, and I actually started recognizing on pro stuff coming out of major studios that exact same tone.
Yeah.
It was like, oh
Yeah.
God, now I sound like blah 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 woof. That production company or that studio.
Yeah.
My friend Adam, and if you've tuned in the podcast, he was on the last one. He says that the Melodyne 5 has become transparent.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
that I have.
So
I have
so
not,
that
played with.
that tonation change
Oh.
is gone now, and so they've got.
Well, understandably, because you'd think that as a company, if there's something like that that's going on in your software,
Right.
either you're going to fix it or somebody else is, and you're
Right.
going to go away.
Yeah, there's probably is that, right.
And that.
But the industry embraced it huge. I mean,
They did. Yeah, totally. I've, for doing just simple like vocal correction type of stuff, I've always used, for a long time now, it's called G-Snap. And it's just a small little program. I think it's a free program that you get on the internet, where you can sort of dial in whatever specific note that you're looking to correct, and it's really good as far as that world goes. Depending on what you have for settings, obviously you can make it sound like the Cher thing, where it's just slammed into tune, and that just
Right.
I guess that has its own effect, or if you're trying to subtly correct pitch.
Right.
And then you do that kind of thing, then it's blatantly apparent.
Right. Right.
So it's just trying to find something that is transparent.
Right. So
And-
it has, like you said, the share thing. So it has a vocoder kind of capability to it.
Yeah, because you can, depending on how you set the settings, you could take a note that's slightly or a lot out of tune and just slap it in tune, and where you get that sound is when you're either a singer singing and scooping up to a note, or they're not quite on pitch, and then it slaps that note into pitch. You get that very computerized, computer generated sort of tone in the vocal, which I guess everybody has their different opinions. They like that or they don't like it. But
I definitely have opinions.
For sure. But I don't know. I guess it's turned into something just like any style of music. It has its place,
right.
And I try not to discount any of that these days. And the reason being is because I've just, in the last couple of years, really started to listen to, like pay attention to, listen to. A lot of the music back in the 80s when I was growing up that I sort of discounted because I was listening to other things, Frank Zappa and things like that. So now going back and listening to me, like, there's really some great stuff out there.
Yeah.
And it was hard to tell in the 80s, but And I don't know if somebody who came of age in the 90s or in the 2000s or in the 2010s, they might say no, those periods of music had their own uniqueness to it.
Right.
But from me, and maybe it's my age too, I look back on the 80s now and think, well, that was one of the last decades really that had its own thing musically.
Right.
And
I understand what you're saying.
And so
you can argue
just,
that about like any decade, but
yeah. And so a lot of that, anyway, to get back to what I was saying,
like
a lot of that,
the 70s had its own feel.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
yeah.
In the 60s, and 50s, and
so I really think that as far as the late 90s is concerned, I think that's when electronic digital music started really kicking in, and now it seems to just dominate everything.
Yeah.
It really does.
And not that really, like I said, not that I'm just trying to take a step back from that these days and sort of appreciate that for what it was, because I realized, but just, with age and maturity, I guess, that that a lot of that stuff that I poo-pooed and discounted it in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so I think to myself, well, if I do the same with that, I'm probably missing out on a lot of great stuff. It's just that music seems to me that you sort of always have to be searching for what the really good stuff is.
Right.
Because especially nowadays, there's so much thrown at you.
Right.
And so it takes even more weeding through to kind of get at the really good
I
stuff.
know what you're saying. So for me, it took me years and years before I embraced U2. But the Police, first note dropped with Roxanne. It was like, whoa.
Yeah, they were.
Who is this? What are you talking about here? And then also
there was no question with the Police.
Fix. Oh my God. Those guys, man. I was just like.
U2, it's funny you say that. Yeah. That's their one that I've recently gone back to and thought, man, boy, great.
Yeah. Great songwriting, all of it, yeah.
But,
but it took
half the world already knew that, and I was wondering
what took you so long. U2 took me a while. That whole thing was... But like I said, man, the Police, it was just like, oh my God. I think, I don't know, it could very well have been Sting's voice, but just the Copeland and I forget the guitar player's name, Andy Summers, right? Those guys, man, just the three of them together, and what they all brought to the table was just virtuosity.
Yeah, just instantly there was a different sound happening.
Yeah.
And just that's like, ooh.
Yeah.
That's tasty. That sounds good. All those instruments and the vocals and the they just did different things.
Yeah. Well, my favorite album of theirs is Ghost in the Machine. I love that one.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
That's great. Yeah. But like I said, from the first, as soon as I heard Roxanne, so I was touring at that time, and it was and God, it would have been 1979. I think we had just gotten in off the road, and we'd been out for several months, and it was just a 2-week breather before going back out, and Roxanne had just come out, and I was just like going, oh my God,
what is this? I know when it came out, you're like, that's awesome. There's just no two ways about it.
Yeah, there is that for sure. You've gotten some incredible tone out of your miking techniques. So when you're miking your amp, what do you do?
Just microphone.
Just you don't have any specifics. No. You just throw it up wherever. Don't really care.
Yeah. Just usually, I think I know microphone techniques have a lot to do with it, but I've always been just kind of simple is better or easier for me, because I'm not as far as a studio guy goes, I'm not some all knowledable guy that knows how to do.
But you've done some great stuff, man.
Things.
Some great recordings.
But that's a testament to, I guess, maybe keeping things simple.
Well, see, that's a technique.
You know, if you work in a space that you're familiar with, I think that's always been my biggest thing is if you can wrap your arms around it, if you can wrap your head around it.
All your projects have pretty much been home studio stuff, right?
Oh yeah,
which is what this is what Mack-n-Cheeze is about. It's home studios.
Yeah.
So that's so keep it simple. Know your equipment.
Right, and for me anyway, I should say I don't know that that's the best way for everybody, but for me, it's a way to sort of keep the technical stuff to a minimum and really try and get the sound right.
Yeah.
You know, to me, I think, and I haven't done a whole lot of experimenting with different like mic techniques and that too, but to me, there's just a world of difference between one amplifier and the next.
Right.
And so,
there is.
And so I imagine with different miking techniques, there's probably vast different, you know, world of all that. But, you know, I think kind of dialing in your sound and knowing what it is you're going after before you go after it.
That's a lot of trial and error.
The number one thing I think I've really learned from the studio in all this time is, and actually I have a story that goes against this. I'll tell you in a minute.
Dude,
but the number one thing I think I've realized is know what it is you're going to do. I've had a lot of times where I try and get a take and I thought, well, I'll just wing it. You know, I know the changes. And then you go back and listen to it, and it just
sucks.
You maybe go in for a solo or something, and you realize there's just no melodic. You might have little bits and pieces that you think, oh man, that's great, but then it's followed up by something that just like falls way flat,
right?
You know? And so then you end up just getting irritated and scratching it, where you could have taken that awesome, cool idea, developed it, made a real full thing into it, out of it, and then just recorded it as is. And I found that when I really start to sort of do that and work out those ideas and then develop those ideas before I get to recording, and then have the recording just about taking a bunch of takes of the same thing and taking the one that just sonically hit, like you just, for one reason or another way, you slid your finger down the fretboard or something, just comes out, and oh man, that just sounds cool.
So for me on drums, I don't know how many times I've copped out. Right, it's like I'll just lay down this groove and then I'll edit it.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing I could do to salvage the drum part. So then I had to start over and just did. So I'm with you, man. Multiple takes, man. Multiple takes.
Yeah, but like go in, really know your part, really know the biggest thing I found out too, apart from that, is not just what you're doing on guitar. Is that a cool guitar solo? Because guitar players, we want cool guitar solos, you know. But the thing is, if you're doing stuff in between, the vocalist, you really got to know, you really have to arrange it and sort of orchestrate it. You're orchestrating in just a band context instead of an orchestra. You're taking into consideration, what is that vocalist singing? What notes are they? Because if you're hanging on those, then it just isn't going to sound right. I found most of the time that those, if you're a little voice leading thing that you're doing maybe for chords or whatever, stepping all over the vocalist, that's just bad news. That just will not come out sounding good. Even taking that, a lot of times try to take it and, you know, shove it to one speaker kind of thing.
Oh, the panning thing?
Distance it or separate.
Right.
Sound it and just
hey, man,
found
more
like, nope,
reverb.
doing it. Fix it in the mix.
Yeah, right. It doesn't always work. So yeah, I really have always enjoyed your approach. And you said, and you've told me in the past, it's because you don't have a lot of tools, but the quality of your recordings are just so present with a minimal approach. How do you get that? So you've been recording in like your bedrooms and stuff like that, but you get the presence in your recordings like you're in a highly controlled studio room. That it sounds like your recordings that you have had a great facility that you recorded in, and actually you just did it in your bedroom.
Well, well, thanks. I think a lot of that comes down to arranging. I believe it or not, I think that somebody told me a long time ago about how a recording has to have, all the instruments have to sort of have their own musical space, their own sonic space. Mm-hmm. If you've got a mandolin, it's way up here. If you've got a guitar, it's kind of in the, mid-heavy. How is that going to blend with drums and toms and different things? The bass, is the bass going to get lost? When there's all this muddy stuff going on down here, how do you do? And I think a lot of that really boils down to, it's more of a technical thing, a scientific thing about waveforms and how they work. Mm-hmm. When you've got a low note making a long wave and it sits in this space here. Right. Well, if you know that this, this A is 440 and this A is 880, and then you've got a vocalist here and it's flip-flopping part, like sometimes the vocalist is singing below the guitar, but sometimes it's above, because where the guitar player's doing the voicings is probably a good time to rethink what those voicings are for guitar. Mm-hmm. Because if you really like the melody and it works over those chord changes, great. Change what's supporting that. Take what's really good about it and support that. And the guitar player will have to get over his ego thing when they make him revoice the chords. But I've had a lot of stuff where I'll be in the studio and just recording a part, and you'll hear something sonically and just have to change the voicing just right then and there. It's like, oh, that just doesn't work. But if I...
So that's wow. I mean, you've really spent a lot of time working on that and trying to make it happen. Well, you've got 6 albums underneath you, right?
Oh, no. No, we've probably recorded a lot more stuff than it has we've actually let people listen to. For that's for sure over the years, but just a couple of different albums. My ex-wife, she had a solo album that we did primarily at home. That was quite a while ago, and
thousands and thousands of hours of recording.
Oh, it's just it was really a lot to learn. I remember back when I first got the very first software that I ever had trying to get sound into a computer. I had this.
What was that?
The software was called Cool Edit Pro.
Oh, I remember that.
You remember that?
I remember the name. I don't think I'm older than you. So,
it was, something similar to like we're looking at here now, but obviously it's developed and it's matured. It's pretty sophisticated now, and
my first thing was Cakewalk, and I spent 1.5 years looking at it. I could make it play back the demo, but I couldn't make it do anything else. Not realizing that I was brain dead. That I still needed to have something that was an interface to make it work. Yeah, I remember it was a week of just
how do I get sound into this thing? and then when I thought I had it all figured out, I had it plugged in, this on, I got everything going, hit the record button, it should work, but boom,
Nothing. Yeah.
No. Oh man, it just, wow. You know, it was a steep learning, but I was learning just recording in general.
Yeah.
You know, I had done very minuscule amount of that beforehand, so I didn't know much about doing it, you know, in an analog context.
Well, it certainly wasn't as easy as that 4-track cassette recorder that I used to have.
I had a friend back when in gosh, I don't know, high school, early college or whatever, had one of those. I was bugging him. I remember bugging him. Come on, man, let's
record
that thing up. We can record.
Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah.
And we laid tracks, and I don't know. We messed around one day on it with some things, and I just thought it was the coolest thing, man.
Yeah,
you know, and so there's no doubt at some point I was going to.
Yeah. You know. One of my friends picked up an 8-track Tascam half-inch, and which is a great machine, right? And so he had like I don't know what was Mackie before it was Mackie. What was that brand called?
Oh, was it a different company? It was same company, different name?
It was the first incarnation. I can't remember what it was, but he had one of those. And God forbid, we didn't understand what a condenser microphone was, or let alone even a preamp. And so, like, you know, we'd record the drums and record the vocals and record the guitar, and it's like, and you know, it was like we were using a 57, you know, and it was like, how come after we did all this work, it doesn't sound very good? I mean, not even an understanding of how to EQ something after the fact, you know? It was just like, geez,
I spent many years thinking that the recording software was lying to me. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was
until at some point you get real and go, okay, I guess that's me. I guess I suck. I guess I need to work on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was. Back in the old days, it didn't realize that you had to like apply like EQ and compression and all that stuff. And honestly, man, I mean, back then, man, it wasn't affordable at all. It was, Louise, man.
When I first got out of college, I had an internship at a recording studio that was close by me in Chicago, and he had, you know, full set. I mean, he had, I forget what he said. He spent $100,000 on equipment.
Easy.
You know.
And that's just scratching the surface back then.
You know, but he had some just top of the line Neumann mics and
always have been expensive.
And it was really cool. It lit the fire in me for it, but I didn't get a whole lot of understanding.
Right.
From it, because I think when you're at the helm, when you're working the controls, then you start to take it in. Even then, it's a long process. It's a steep learning curve.
So you were an intern at this studio?
I was. I just got out of college, and it was sort of my final thing. I had to do an internship. Right. And so they said, yeah, they'd take me on. And lucky enough for me, in Chicago, it was 5-10 minutes away, which is, you know, I thought for sure I'd have to drive, you know, an hour and a half each way. Right. No, it was like 10 minutes away. And so I was working there for, I don't know, a week or two, and the guy said, how about we just hire you?
Wow.
You know, so
Holy.
And and it wasn't a lot. It was this much above minimum wage, but it
must have really liked your work ethic.
Sure was fun and cool, and I showed up. You know?
Yeah, well, you showed up and you weren't drunk or stoned. That makes a big difference.
Hey.
Hey, man, I'm working with these guys. Working at this studio. Hey, man.
That's pretty reliable, you know.
Yeah, that is reliable. But then that was like fresh out of college, or what?
That was fresh out of college, and so I was there for, I don't know,
That's cool that you got that gig.
A year or two, but I was looking to get out of Chicago, so I quit that and made my way down to Arizona.
Yeah. So how many bands do you think you've been in? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, too many.
Yeah.
Do we count the ones that were pretend or the? Or the,
God, no. I guess that would be.
Couldn't count that.
Wait a minute. Pretend bands. Oh, God. And then what qualifies a band to be a real band, man? Is that you got to set up that parameter, right?
Yeah.
So is the definition of a band that's getting paid money, or is it a band that you're together where you're just recording, or was it a band that you sat in this practice studio for 3 years?
Sure.
Is that a band?
Sure. We'll call it a band. All of that, all of the above.
It's like one of my favorite ones is that I have a friend that's going to be playing his acoustic guitar down at the coffee shop for an hour and a half, and he goes, "Hey man, you got to come check out my show." Your show? Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you're down at the coffee place doing a show.
Oh, speaking of that, that's one thing I really think I haven't been involved in band-wise much over the years. It was more about putting the music together and going out and doing gigs. But I recently have acquired this desire to be in a band that's just like funky, cool, and the dress and the image and all that, and the showmanship of it is actually part of it.
Absolutely,
where it's something where people are like, "What?"
Well, you know what? With David, wait a minute. That requires work and commitment.
Yeah, you take all the experiences. You take it all with you.
Yeah,
and if you're in pursuit of songwriting, then that's something new to write about. All your experiences.
Yeah.
And you sort of take that, learn your lessons, I guess, in life, because that's what you should do. And
you should have been a dad. You would have been a great father.
Practice your guitar.
Yes. Scales. Metronome. Scales. Metronome.
Miss the beat.
All right. Well, hey, just want to thank everybody for listening. This has been Dave Tieman and Brian at Mack-n-Cheeze. We'll be in touch soon.
Thanks again, brother. Nice to be here.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's it for today's podcast. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Bruno, you got some words of wisdom for everybody?
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it, please subscribe to Brian at Mack-n-Cheeze on YouTube. Just press that subscribe button and you'll never miss another episode. Hey, and you got that going for you, right? All right, cheers, have a great day.